Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tushar, and I stand here to ask you a simple question. Why does anyone join the army? The answer is also as simple: to serve the nation. And by that definition, I am a soldier. Yes, I am a soldier. I don't lead war armies, I lead entrepreneurs. I don't create war strategies, I create solutions of the problem we are facing. And I don't protect the present, I build the future. I don't carry war scars on my skin, I carry marks of innovation on my soul. I stand here not with a rifle slung over my shoulder, but a laptop under my arm. My uniform is not a camouflage fatigue, it's a sharp suit. And my battleground is not a distant land, it is the ever evolving global marketplace. My mission is not to conquer, but to create. It is not to destroy, but to innovate. Humanity has been fighting wars since the time immemorial. And with every single war, we have seen economies developing new warfare techniques, new tools. But today, we face a different kind of war. The kind of war that we are going to be seeing in the future, and the kind of soldier that you have to be if you want to participate in the war, is what I'm going to be talking about today. But before I do that, let's move back a little bit and look at how the wars of the past have been fought. Let's go back in time and look at the prehistoric man. In the midst of prehistory, we see prehistoric man with nothing but stones and spear. Their only quest was a quest for survival, one of the most raw form of warfare that we experienced. As humanity evolved, so did the kind of conflicts. This was the era of the great kingdoms. We saw vast armies marching against each other in the quest of fighting each other. We saw empires like the Roman Empire, the Persian Empire, and the Egyptian Empire. This time, it was not the prehistoric man who was fighting. It was an armed man with better weapons made out of iron, with swords and shield. And this was with one conquest, that was to find territories and create empires. This era gave us great leaders like Alexander the Great and Genghis Khan, who not only changed how we looked at the world, they rewrote history. After this came the era of exploration. It was a time when colonial powers starting reaching out to foreign territories and starting colonizing them. European powers like France, Britain, and Spain reached out to masses, reached out to land, crossed those oceans, and colonized these territories. This time the soldier was even different. The soldier was not a prehistoric man. He was an army man with arms and artilleries. Ladies and gentlemen, moving on to the new kind of war, it was the late 18th century and the early 19th century. What we experienced for the first time ever was not the nations competing against each other with warfare, but the nations competing each other on the basis of economic supremacy. This was the time of industrial revolutions, when our soldiers, industrialists, were using the power of steam engines, were using the power of machinery to prove that their country is better than the other based upon the kind of innovations they were making. After this, we moved on to the 20th century. And this century brought wars which had not been seen before. World War I had a massive destruction of 16 million lives being lost. We never imagined that we would see a war where we would not be fighting between two countries, but multiple countries would be fighting against each other. The soldier at this point of time was a much smarter armed man, not using stones, not using arms, but using tanks and rockets. After this, when we thought this was it, we experienced another war, which was World War II. This was a time when a nuclear weapon was born, a nuclear weapon which led to 70 million lives being lost, and this changed the course of the history. This was something that we had never imagined before. After two great world wars, we experienced a Cold War. This was a time when it was not a fight with warfare and arms and armies. This was a time when we were fighting with ideologies. We were fighting with propagandas. We were fighting proxy wars. The world seemed divided into two different spaces, one being the US, other one being the Soviet Union. The war was such that we started fighting even for space. Russia moved on and put Sputnik into the space for the first time, and US landed the first person ever on the moon. This is how we have been moving with respect to wars. But let me give you another perspective. Just take a look at this graph. These are some of the biggest armies of the world. What you look here, let's take for example, the biggest army that is there is the one with 5.8 million military personnel. Let's call it country A. And one of the smallest one being 2.1 million military personnel. Let's call it country B. My question to you is, imagine country A with 5.8 million going against a war with country B with 2.1 million. Who do you think is going to win? Ladies and gentlemen, you would definitely say that the most obvious answer is that country A is definitely going to win over country B because they have a bigger military personnel. But I'm very sure your mindset is going to change. Let's look at why. What do you think now? Country A being Vietnam and country B being the US. We now today know that it is impossible for a country like Vietnam to fight against a country like US. But my question to you is, why do you think so? Today, like previous year, the war is not about arms and armies and nuclear weapons. Today, my friends, the war is about economy. In today's world, we fight not with nuclear weapons and arms. Today, we fight with economic sanctions. Today, we fight with GDP. Today, we fight with savvy technologies. Just think about it. Economies today use economic tools, GDPs, tariffs, trade, and other barriers to compete against each other. I'll give you a couple of more examples. Just take a look at what happened with the trade war between India and the US and China. US and China started competing against each other with trade barriers 10 years back, and it disrupted entire global supply chain with major economies facing the brunt of it. This is not it. Take a look at countries like North Korea and Iran. These countries were imposed trade barriers on, and the economic sanctions that were imposed put a lot of pressure on these countries. And mind you, this economic pressure was a pressure that was created without a single shot being fired. This is the kind of power that we are talking about today. This is the kind of power that economies hold today. And that is not it. Take an example of what European Union is doing to companies like Google and Apple. They're imposing heavy fines, and these heavy fines are not just a penalty. These heavy fines are a way of showing that we hold more power against you, and we are going to make sure that we use this power to coerce you. This is how economies are changing. Today, the war is war of economies. But the question is, what is the war of future, and what am I talking about? The war of future is going to be a war for entrepreneurship. Today, it is not about destruction, it is about creation. 100 million startups are launched every single year, 3 every second. 50% of the entire workforce is working in small and medium enterprises. Economies today are working against each other by creating more dynamic ecosystems. They're creating more better economies, better technology, more employable people, and better infrastructure. And that is what is the race that we are fighting for today. My friends, if you have to be a future, or if you have to be a soldier of the future and you want to contribute to what is happening, you have to start thinking differently. This is a new breed of entrepreneurs that we are talking about. Let me give you a glimpse of how the entrepreneurs and startups today are. Entrepreneurs of today and startups of today are at the center of power. They are strong enough to mend, they are strong enough to bend political parties, world leaders, and nations. Just take example of SpaceX. SpaceX, a space research organization, has done incredible work when it comes to space exploration and space research. NASA, one of the oldest and one of the biggest companies, one of the biggest government-owned agencies which is into space research today, has to reach out to a company like SpaceX and ask them for help in terms of technology, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of research. Let me put this in perspective by giving you some data sets. Take a look at this graph. What you look here are the number of satellites which are floating in the space. I want you to focus on two data sets. One is a 66-year-old NASA has 60 satellites in space, but a 22-year-old SpaceX has more than 1600 satellites in space. What a stark difference. It is not about countries holding power today. It is about entrepreneurs making power, entrepreneurs creating a center of power around themselves. And this is not it. Let's talk about Mark Zuckerberg. What Zuckerberg has created today is Facebook, which has 2.8 billion users. This is bigger than the population of the biggest nations in the world. If he wants, he and his platforms can create narratives of how the world thinks. They can change elections. They can create opportunities. And they can also destroy the nations completely. This is the kind of breed that we are talking about. And this is how I want you to think like a soldier and if you want to become one in the future. But the question that you might ask me is, why should I be an entrepreneur? Why should I be a soldier of the future? I have three things that I would want to say to you. My friends, today it is about being the center of power. Politicians today don't hold any power. The real power is in the hand of entrepreneurs. Politicians have a life set of only 5 years. After that, the power is gone. But entrepreneurs' power is a power forever. Look at what happened with Ukraine. The president of Ukraine, when he had to ask for help, he asked not India for help, not US for help, not China for help. Who did he call? He called Elon Musk. Today, Elon Musk, Starlink, is providing internet to the entire country of Ukraine, a war-torn country, and it is keeping them connected to the internet. That is what is the power of a real entrepreneur. Look at what Adani is doing. Adani Power is a major supplier of electricity to Bangladesh. Today, when the dues are not paid, Adani has a capacity to stop the entire supply of electricity to Bangladesh, and that is going to bring that nation to a standstill. It is not about business. It is not about business. It is about creating impact. It is about changing nations. It is about creating economies today. So don't think small, think bigger. Think of how you can create a center of power around yourself. You also have to be a transformer. An entrepreneur is not only creating business, he or she is transforming lives. It is unimaginable for us to think of our life without apps like Swiggy, Zomato, Ola, Uber. It has changed how we live our life. Everything is available at our doorstep. Everything is available at a click of a button. And this could not have happened if an entrepreneur would not have thought like a transformer. The entrepreneur is the one who can bring and transform lives. And that is why you should be an entrepreneur. And moving on, to be very honest, my friends, we don't have a choice. Just take a look around us. Look at the unemployment rates that are there. One of the highest unemployment rate at this point of time. The best of the institutions in the country are facing difficulty to place their employees, to place their students. What we also see with new tools coming like ChatGPT and machine learning, it is becoming difficult for people to upscale themselves and get a job. So my suggestion would be, think like an entrepreneur, be a job creator and not a job seeker. Now your next question to me would be, yes, we want to be entrepreneur, we want to be a soldier of the future, but what are the things that we should be careful of? These are the things that you should be careful of. These are biggest misconceptions when it comes to being an entrepreneur. Let's take a look at it. First one being, is that you have a risk taker. To give you some stats, 90% of the startups that are created fail. If all of the startup founders were risk takers and good risk takers, all of them would have succeeded. I want to draw a parallel over here with respect to stock market. What we see and what we hear in the stock market is, higher the risk, better is the return. But my friends, the best performing investment bankers, the best performing financial professionals are not the ones who take the highest risk. They are the ones that take the most systematic risk. And that is what is my ask from you. You can't be a risk taker. The new breed of entrepreneurs have to be systematic risk takers. Think about it. If you take systematic risk, the chances of you succeeding would be more. You are not going to be a part of that 90% club. You are going to be a part of that elite 10% club that is going to succeed and is going to make a difference. Moving forward, it is said that network is your biggest data. An entrepreneur is well networked, and a good entrepreneur would always be well networked. An entrepreneur having 30,000 LinkedIn connections, but not being able to understand how to capitalize them is not a good networker. It is a time of not being a good networker, but a purposeful networker. You have to understand how to reach out to those 30,000 people who can give you what can give you to the other person, and how the relationship that you're going to create is going to drive value out of it. So it is not the time to be just a networker, it is the time to be a purposeful networker. Third one is a jack of all trades. Again, a very common saying that an entrepreneur is a jack of all trade and a master of none. I think this is the biggest misconception and myth. What I propose is an entrepreneur is a jack of all trade and a master of all. It is not about being master of none. And why do I think so? Please understand that an entrepreneur is not a one-man army. It's an army of a team. It is about team effort. If you know that there is a skill that you're lacking in, you should hire, recruit people who complement your skill. You should have your hands, minds, legs, people who are working together with you, making it work. Look at the biggest and best businesses around the world. Let's take a look at Tata. Today, Tata manufactures and produces everything under the sun, right from a hotel industry, to a steel industry, to a motors industry. And they are not able to do that only because they're good at everything. It is because they have a good team. And that is what is making them a jack of all trades and master of all. So I request you to be a master of all and not just a jack of all trade and master of none. And lastly, I want to talk about being innovative. It is said that if you want to be an entrepreneur, start something of your own, you have to be innovative. My answer is no, you just can't be innovative. Think about a scientist. Scientist is an innovative person. But is scientist as powerful at this point in time like an entrepreneur? No. An entrepreneur has to execute well. An entrepreneur has to be creator, not just an innovative person. So it is time for you to be innovative and creative. Innovative and a creator. It's a time for you to be an innovator, where you put both of these skills together and create something beautiful. Look at what Sam Altman has been able to produce. If we just look at what AI was doing previously, it was just research. It was good for scientific research, understanding how computers work. But what that entrepreneur, that soldier of today, the creator of today has been able to do is to create a platform which is changing our lives. That person is an innovator. And these are the things that you should keep in your mind if you want to be entrepreneurs of the future. Ladies and gentlemen, I would want to end by saying, I tell you that wars of the past were fought with stones and spears. The war of the 20th century were fought with nuclear weapons. The current wars are wars of economies, but the war of future is going to be a war of an entrepreneur. It's a war of a startup. And if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to start thinking like one. I wish you all the best. I wish you a lot of entrepreneurship. Thank you so much. This was my time.